So, you want to know the CAPM exam score? I will tell you. It is less of a number and more of a mystery. Hello, everybody. I'm Cornelius Frichtner from pmprepcast.com. And yes, this here is our lesson on the CAPM exam score. I hope I have whet your appetite a little bit with that opening, because we're going to be looking at the CAPM exam score and also at the examination report that PMI gives you at the end of your exam. Here is our agenda. We have 4 big sections to get through. PMP passing score is first. Want to get that out of the way. Then the exam report. We have to talk about exam forensics. Then I have a section with FAQs, big questions that people have about taking the exam and scoring. Then I have 3 tips for you about how to increase your score. And I will close with my usual takeaways and take action there at the end. Before we jump into part 1, though, please don't forget, we have a complete online suite for the CAPM exam preparation with tools and everything you need. On the left, the PM Prepcast for CAPM at pmprepcast.com/CAPM. That is our training course. And on the right, my CAPM exam simulator at pmexamsimulator.com/CAPM. There's also a free version of that. Right, as we get into the first section here, I have this offer to make to everybody. We are currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you are watching this lesson live, please feel free to just type your question into the chat box. I will see that. I'll bring it up. I'll try to answer as many as I can right here as we go through the presentation. And now, on to the passing score. To get everyone onto the same page, we begin with the exam timeline, which has 5 segments. The exam itself is preceded by an optional tutorial that's about 5 to 15 minutes long. That will give you some time to calm down before your exam, relax, get comfortable with the user interface. Then you press start, and we have the actual exam. You have 3 hours for 150 questions. The system will give you first 75 questions to answer. Then you can take a 10-minute break. Then you get the second set of 75 questions. After you're done with the exam, either you press end exam or your time runs out, you will be shown on the screen your overall result, pass, fail, after which PMI gives you a survey. Again, this is optional, takes another 5 to 15 minutes, they say, to complete. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes some people tell me the survey comes first, the result comes second. Some say, no, the result came first, the survey comes second. So it all depends probably on the day of the week when you take your exam, which of these 2 comes first. But after these 2, we are then also given an exam report, either an online document, or if you're taking the exam at a testing center, you get a printed version of that report. Our focus for the rest of this lesson is on these 2 areas here. We'll talk about what constitutes a pass-fail, as well as look into the report that PMI gives you. We want to review these 2 things because once you are done with the exam, you'll probably have a few questions that you would like to have answered. Questions like these here. What is my exact exam score? How far was I from passing? Or what should I do to improve my results? Those 2 probably more likely if you didn't pass. And what were my areas of strengths and weakness on the exam? That's both helpful whether you passed or not, because you want to know where you stand, right? Well, let me just say that there is one of these 4 questions here that you will never get an answer for, and that is, what is my exact exam score? Neither the exam results report nor PMI will tell you about the exam score. They don't tell you what the exam passing score is, and they won't tell you what your personal exam score was either. So you will really never know how many questions on the exam you answered correctly or incorrectly, and you will never know how many questions you need to answer correctly in order to pass. This sort of secrecy has been PMI's policy for many years now, and I'm not going to question it. It is simply what it is. PMI doesn't tell you the passing score. It won't tell you how many questions you had right. It is what it is, and PMI simply does it for that way. What I can tell you, however, is how PMI calculates the exam score. But before I tell you how it's calculated, I want to repeat this statement here. Nobody knows the score for any PMI exam, what the passing score is. Not for the CAPM, not for the ACP, not for any of the others, right? So if you hear anybody say, if you read an article or watch a video where somebody says, oh, the CAPM exam passing score is, I'll pick a number, 61%. Tell them they have absolutely no idea what they are talking about. We do simply not know what the required minimum score is to pass. PMI doesn't tell us. We cannot even make any assumptions because it's just, it is what it is, right? We do not know. But what we do know is that PMI tells us this here. The passing score for all PMI exams is determined by what is called sound psychometric analysis. At the core, this means that PMI uses subject matter experts, project professionals from around the world and from many different disciplines to determine, well, how many questions does somebody have to answer correctly in order to pass the exam? So they determine that, and then each scored question on the exam is worth 1 point, and your final exam score is calculated by totaling the points you have earned on the exam. The number of questions you answer correctly then places you within one of what PMI calls their performance rating categories. And we're going to take a look at those categories in just a moment when we take a look at the actual exam report. So here is how PMI calculates, how they establish a passing score for the PMP at the top, ACP in the middle, and what interests us most, the CAPM there at the bottom. So let's go from left to right here. So on these exams, you have to answer a certain number of questions. As you can see at the bottom for the CAPM, it is 150. Then PMI inserts pre-test questions into each exam, 15 for the CAPM exam. Pre-test questions, those are those questions that are new, that PMI recently developed. They want to try them out, see how people respond to them. How do these questions work? How many people get them right? How many people get them wrong? Are they sound questions? So in essence, you become a test subject. You help PMI test these questions. And, dozens and dozens of people will test these questions every day. So PMI gets a lot of data about these new questions, and then they can determine whether they are sound and can go into the exam. These 15 questions do not count. So if we have 150 questions total, 15 pre-test that do not count, that means the actual number that are being scored is 150 minus 15. It is 135. And as you may remember from the previous slide, they will be scored based on those sound psychometric analyses. In other words, the number that is now highlighted here on the very right, that is the maximum score that you could achieve on your exam. So if you get every single question right on your CAPM exam, the maximum score that you can achieve is 135. What we don't know is the minimum, because the minimum, that would be the minimum passing score, right? How many do I have to have correctly? It could be 87. It could be 121. We simply do not know. Okay? I think I've mentioned this enough now, and I hope I got the point across. We do not know. At this point, you're probably thinking, I wish he would stop talking about all the things that we are not being told and instead look at what we are being told. Yeah, I can do that. What you see here is the top half of an actual CAPM exam result report from someone who recently passed their CAPM exam. And they passed because, well, it is all in green here, right? You can see the 4 domains, the 4 areas there of the circle, and it tells you your overall result here is a pass. Then what you see here, this is an example that PMI has provided from somebody who failed. I do actually not have an example of a student of mine who failed because all my students pass. Yes. Yeah. I have to admit, I don't know a recent CAPM student of mine who has told us that they had failed. So yeah, this is hopefully a very unusual sight for somebody who takes the CAPM exam. And what you can clearly see is you there is in the red area, so you have failed. This here is again from one of my students who provided this to me. This is how they had passed. You can see the area there, target, is highlighted. And let's go back to this one here. You can see this says needs improvement underneath the red area, and here underneath the green area it says target. And then the next one that I have for you, also a student of mine, is above target in the green area. Now, what you'll notice is this one here is kind of in the center. This one here is also in the center. I have seen other people who, so it's not always in the center. It's literally where you are in the thing. I've seen somebody where the U was very, very close to the far right. So they must have gotten out of the maximum 135, they must have had somewhere like around, I don't know, 130 correct answers. It was so far to the right there. Then when you scroll down from here and you look at what's below, you will see the actual performance by domain. Remember that green circle that we saw previously? This is that green circle in table, sort of table format, box format, if you wish. So we have, first of all, we have the domain there, right there. This is the project management fundamentals and core concepts. That's domain 1, above target. Then predictive and plan-based methodologies. Here again, he was above, or she was above target. And then we have agile frameworks and methodologies above target, and business analysis frameworks above target here as well. What do these things mean? Here it is. PMI has these 4 performance ratings for each of the domains. It will tell you whether you are above target, which means you have exceeded the minimum requirements for the CAPM exam. You're on target, which obviously means, yeah, you're perfect. This is exactly what we are looking for. You meet the minimum requirements. Then there is a below target. That is just slightly below what you should have achieved. And the last one there is needs improvement, which means, yeah, you really are struggling with this particular domain. You are far below target here. With these 4 categories, PMI is trying to offer guidance, information, and support for those who are taking their exam, particularly in those cases where you need to retake the exam. You can take a look here and see, well, where am I within these categories, and where do I lack knowledge and where would I probably have to study a little bit more, right? And yeah, for those who failed the exam, again, this is an example student here that PMI provides. This is from, I believe, the old CAPM. No, this is from the old PMP exam. So PMI does not offer any updated examples, unfortunately, for the CAPM or PMP that look as they are today. But it looks 90% the same if you go into your online account and look at your score, and you simply log in into PMI's continuing certification requirement system. That's the CCRS, and then you click on the exam results section, and now this is what you see on the screen. Hopefully in your case it will be mostly green, and it will say pass at the top and not fail, and not the red area will be highlighted, but the green area will be highlighted. But you know, for those unfortunate souls where it is like that, then yeah, you have more information to the right when you scroll over, because when you take the exam, you have 1 year to pass it. You have a total of 3 takes. So this person has already taken once and failed, right? And now they have, you can see that at the top there in the text, 2 retakes remaining, 130 more days. And then below that, they have also the steps for success and recommendations and all that. So let's drill down into these results here. So remember, we have 4 domains on the CAPM exam that you have to, that PMI is testing you on. And this here is a breakdown of this domain performance. It shows you how you performed on each task that is included on the exam. If you're not sure what I mean by tasks and domains and all of that, then I do recommend my lesson on the exam content outline. So take a look at my lesson, the CAPM exam content outline, where we talk about domains, tasks, and enablers. And right now we are here at the task level, and we're looking at how this person fared in regards to the domain 4, business analysis framework. You can clearly see that task 1, 2, and 3 there in the image. The blue area is far to the right, so they scored high in this, whereas in 4 and 5 they scored low, and task 6 is again high, right? You can now print this out, right? And you can compare this to the exam content outline and see where you are and how you are doing. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is what the exam result report tells you, right? You did well on 1, 2, and 3, not so well on 4 and 5, okay again on 6. So what does that mean when you look at the exam content outline? Here it is. The numbers of the task, they correspond. So here is this domain 4, business analysis, and you can see there on the right, task 4, demonstrate an understanding of product roadmaps. That means that here in task 4, okay, the result was low for 4 and 5. So this student really didn't have a good idea about what a roadmap is. And they also struggled with task 5, determine how project methodologies influence business analysis processes. So they struggled in those 2 areas. And if you now have to take your exam again, then, well, you know exactly that these 2 areas was where you were really weak, and you can now, you know, go through your materials again and learn a bit more about product roadmaps and how the choice of the methodology influences business analysis. And if you have passed your exam, you also know that you're weak in these areas. So maybe your ongoing education could focus on these 2 things, right? So if you want to study more and learn more, these are areas where you are weak, and this will help you to move your career forward. I got a comment here from Senthil Kumar Pachai. When is ACP? Senthil Kumar, this lesson here is 100% about the CAPM exam. I am not going to be discussing the ACP exam at all as we go through this lesson here. All right. We are now moving on to the next section, which is exam security and digital forensics. In short, people cheat, and PMI is doing everything it can to catch the cheaters, right? I'm being very blunt here about this, but this is what it boils down to in the end. So let's take a look at what this all means here. We want to start here with the exam report, because after you are done with the exam, then you will receive an exam report from PMI. You'll get a hard copy if you are at a testing center, and if you take the exam online, then usually within an hour or so, you receive an email from PMI with your exam report, right? In both cases, make sure that you keep that thing for your records. I had one student who took the exam. It was for the PMP exam, but it doesn't matter. You want to keep that report and have it handy. He took the exam at a testing center, got the printed report, everything wonderful, went home. 2 weeks went by, nothing. Didn't hear from PMI, no communication. He reached out to them and they told him, oh yeah, that testing center where you took the exam, they had a complete data crash. They lost all the results from that day. And the student then said, I have my report here. I can prove that I passed because it says so printed on that piece of paper. And that's why he passed his exam, because he could prove it. So make sure you keep that. But it is important to note that this is only preliminary. So that report is not your final exam report. This is your preliminary report. Any score provided at the conclusion of a candidate's testing session, PMI says, is considered preliminary until the candidate receives notice from PMI that the result is official. Most of my students tell me that they receive the official, yep, all good, you passed, within 24 to 48 hours. PMI, I believe, does say it can take up to 5 days. Up to 5 days. So what is it that they do? Why is it preliminary? Why do you have to wait to get your final result? This here is the answer. Data forensics. PMI uses an independent third-party security company, and they will look at the exams taken throughout every single day from a statistical perspective and psychometric perspective, and they perform analyses across all of these exams. So there are thousands of people taking PMI exams every single day. So there's a lot of data that they go through and check, right? And they are looking for the blips. They are looking for the outliers in these statistics. And if they do, this is what happens. PMI reserves the right to hold, invalidate, or cancel any score identified as potentially invalid on the basis of these analyses alone. Let me give you an example. Let's assume 2 people are taking the CAPM exam at the same testing center. And for whatever reason, every single answer they give is the same across 150 questions. They just happen to have the same exam. Statistically, it is very unlikely that 2 people taking the same exam give exactly the same answer. Happens probably once in a million years, so very, very highly unlikely. So here is what PMI does. They perform these statistical analyses. They will look at the exams of those 2 people and probably say, you know what? Something is not right. They will invalidate the exam, inform both students about that, And then both students can retake the exam for free. They don't have to pay for it again. PMI says, because there is a statistical anomaly, your exam is not valid. Now, what PMI will also do, there are probably recordings of the people at the testing center. They look at other things that might have happened, and they will look, did these two cheat? Did they try to cheat? Have they cheated? And if they do find it, however they do that, they will also take the misconduct actions on the right. So they need additional evidence. They can't just say, well, statistically this is impossible, therefore you have cheated. No, they must find additional evidence that you cheated, or that somebody cheated rather, right? And they will invalidate the exam, and disciplinary actions will be taken against that person. Most likely, they will lose their PMI membership. They will never be able to take any other PMI exams, and so on. So they're really going to get hammered. But you are an honest person, right? You would never do anything like that. Here is what will actually happen to you. You're going to take your exam, and you're going to get that report, the preliminary report, and within 24 hours, PMI will validate your report. Nothing will happen at all. There won't be any statistical blips happening to you. You will get certified. You will have the CAPM letters behind your name. Congratulations. So this is what will happen 99.999% of the time. All right. Yeah, so that's it for this whole forensics section of my presentation. We're moving on to the FAQ. And as a reminder, if you still have any questions about the exam score and exam report, please type it in to the chat, and I'll be happy to answer it right here live. Let's start with this question here. What is the CAPM passing rate? So earlier we talked about the CAPM passing score, right? How many questions do I have to answer correctly to pass? We don't know. This question is about the passing rate. Out of 100 students, how many will pass? Well, that depends on who you ask. If you ask PMI will say, no comment. We're not releasing these kind of numbers. Then if you ask the internet, you will find a random percentage. Somebody says, yeah, 9 out of 10 people pass. Sometimes you'll say 7 out of 10 people pass, whatever, right? If you look at my exam simulator for the CAPM exam, we say it depends. It depends on how you are doing. This here is a screenshot from the exam simulator, pmexamsimulator.com/CAPM. And while this here is from the PMP exam, we have learned that a good target number is 75%. So if you are reaching 75% in our simulator as your statistics, you are good to go. So the next obvious question that somebody will have is, yeah, so I am really regularly scoring 75% on my simulator exams. Am I ready? If this is my simulator, my answer will be probably, right? Statistically speaking, from the history of our students and all that, I can say with confidence, statistically speaking, you are probably ready and you will pass. You have a high chance of passing. Your true result will vary, right? It all depends on the day, whether you're feeling okay, whether you're having a good day and a good exam, or whether you know things aren't just gelling for you. So there's always that to consider. But statistically speaking, yes, you are probably ready if, in my exam simulator, you regularly score 75% on your sample exams and quizzes. So how do I increase my score? This is both before you take the exam and also after, because you want to make sure that you come out of there with a good score that makes you pass. Well, apply, plan, do, check, act, right? The Rouhart cycle. This is quite simple. So you have a study plan. And as part of that study plan, you do take sample quizzes, sample exams in an exam simulator. When you're done with that, when you've taken them, you check your exam results. You look at what you had right, and in particular, you check and look at what you had wrong. You're going to learn from those mistakes. You're going to act. You're going to study more. You're going to make sure that if you get a similar question about the same topic, you know the topic better, you understand it better, and that you can next time understand this better and answer the question correctly. Plan, do, check, act. As simple as that. Well, as simple as that. Easier said than done, right? It takes a lot of effort, but this is the way to increase your score. Then remember, when we looked at the score report, there was needs improvement, below target, target, and above target. So can you pass with below target in one of those domains? Yes, you can pass with many different performance profiles. Here are actual results from actual students. And you'll see that I've summarized it just with the, T, AT, AT, AT. That means the first one there. In the first domain, domain 1, he was on, or she was on target. And then for the other 3, they were above target. And as you can see, not all of them have 4 ATs, which is above target. So it is quite possible to have, like the fourth one there, fourth bullet point down, AT, then target, then needs improvement, right? Even with a result like that, you can pass the CAPM exam as long as, you're really stellar. So if we have AT, ATT, and NI, that means in the 2 ATs, that person was really high up, really stellar, really well done, right? And passed the exam because of that. So a needs improvement in one area does not mean you will fail your exam. But now that I've passed with AT, target, and needs improvement, does that even matter? I took my PMP exam in the year 2004. Nobody has ever asked me what my PMP exam score was. It doesn't really matter. If you pass, you pass. That is really all that counts. So, do harder questions give me more points? No. Each question is 1 point. What PMI does is it balances the exams out. Remember the psychometric analyses? So, if you have a lot of hard questions and somebody else has fewer hard questions, well, they will have more medium hard questions and fewer easy questions, right? And so they balance out hard, medium, easy, so that in the end, your exam difficulty level and somebody else's difficulty level will match. So in the end, it doesn't matter whether you answer a hard question or an easy question correctly or incorrectly. Only the total number of correctly answered question matters, because it's the overall that counts. Therefore, harder questions give you 1 point. Easy questions give you 1 point. The total is what matters. Then you may be aware that PMI not only has a question and then 4 answers, they also have these questions where they say, you have 5 answers and now you have to select 2 or select 3. Which of the following 3 are correct? So if you have select 3 and you get 2 correct out of the 3, do you get partial credit? No, you only get single credit. So a question on the PMI exam is either correctly answered or incorrectly answered. There is no partially correct answer available on the CAPM exam. And if you want to test yourself on sample questions, then why not give it a go with my CAPM exam simulator? Has about 600 questions, covers everything that PMI requires in their exam specifications. You can find it at pmexamsimulator.com/CAPM. And as I said, there's a free version there available as well. We are moving on to the last section of this lesson, of this presentation here. Tips, take action, and takeaways. And here are my top 3 tips for exam preparation. And frankly, this is really easier said than done, right? But you want to have a study plan there on the far left, and you want to apply yourself to your studies with focus and dedication. Yes, the CAPM exam may look like an easy exam, right? And if you look at lessons learned that people have posted, and I'll talk about that in the lessons learned webinar that I have, if people apply themselves and they study hard, they will come back and say, hey, this was a very easy exam. I had no problem with it. Well, yeah, you just studied for 5 weeks hard and took all those sample questions and sample exams. Not surprising that you think it's easy, right? Now try the other way. Just apply for the exam and go take the exam without studying anything. You'll go, whoa, I failed. This is a hard exam, right? So you want to apply yourself. You want to do this right. You also want to understand PMI mindset and spot the correct answers on the exam. I even have lessons out there primarily for the PMP exam called the Understanding the PMI Mindset, I believe. And so take a look at those. And they will help you for the CAPM exam, even though they're specifically created for the PMP exam. The mindset is generally the same on both exams. And then definitely practice with an exam simulator and know how to pace yourself. And note, I am saying practice with an exam simulator. Would be nice if you chose mine, but my real goal with this here is I want to make it clear, you want a simulator. Buy the one that works for you, buy the one that matches your needs, that fits at your budget and all that. Make sure it's a good one, but you want a CAPM exam simulator. So these are my top 3 tips, which have suddenly disappeared, and now they appear again one by one. There we go. Not quite sure what is going on with this slide right now. Let's move on to the next slide. Take action, right? Create a study plan. I don't have an article about how to create a CAPM study plan, but PMP and CAPM are so much alike in terms of how you have to study and what you have to study on the highest level. So look at my article there, pmprepcourse.com/PMP study plan, and adapt it for the CAPM. Really easy to do. Read through it and ignore, and just imagine it's a CAPM wherever I say PMP. And then my simulator, as I mentioned before, pmexamsimulator.com/CAPM. You want to use an exam simulator to have practice. And then here are my takeaways from this conversation. And thank you very much, James, for saying that this lesson is spot on. Much appreciated. All right, so PMI will give you a preliminary result after you have taken your exam. And in 99.9% of the time, this exam report will say passed, and you want to keep it until PMI says, yes, everything is good, you have passed. And then there is no info about what the required minimum score is on the real exam or the actual exam score. It just doesn't exist. And if somebody tells you what it is, then they are wrong. We have these 4 performance rating categories for each of the 4 domains: needs improvement, below target, target, and above target. And the online CCRS, that is the Continuing Certification Requirement System. That's just what PMI calls it. That's their online system where you can see your report. That will give you drilled down details. These are interesting to look at, whether you pass or if you need to retake your exam. Becky Reese asks here, is the PMI exam reference list helpful? Now, Becky, if I understand you correctly, PMI has a list of reference books for its exams and says, if you are preparing for this exam, then please read these books, or rather, we use these books here for reference. And if you read these books, they may help you as you prepare for the exam. Yes, it is helpful if you want to read all of these books. It's as simple as that, right? These are the books that PMI uses as reference materials as they develop the questions for the exam. Much easier way is get yourself a solid CAPM exam prep course. Don't worry about reading all those books. Let me and my colleagues do that for you, and then translate that into a CAPM exam prep course for you. So if you do that, if you get your CAPM exam prep course, you don't have to worry about reading all those books. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. These are, once again, our takeaways from this lesson. Much appreciate your time. Until next time. Yeah, but before you go, don't forget, this lesson is part of a series in which I guide you to better prepare yourself for the CAPM exam. Please visit pm-prepcast.com/CAPM guide. That will take you to my YouTube playlist where you can watch these and more free lessons that will take you towards the CAPM exam.